Before I dive into the specifics of the Law and Public Service program, I thought I'd briefly tell you about myself and about sort of how supportive and effective I think the law school is these days in terms of giving people the skills and the resources necessary to pursue public service careers after they graduate. I graduated from Northwestern in 1994, and since that time, I have done nothing but public interest work. I was a public defender right out of law school for 3 years, and I moved to Virginia and started a child advocacy project in 1998, and I did that full-time and taught here as an adjunct professor until the fall of 2010, when I joined the faculty here on a full-time basis. I can say, having watched the law school for a number of years and having been here now on a full-time basis, that I'm really full of sort of nothing but envy for our current students. When I was a law student, law schools were less supportive than they are now and less sort of keen on the idea of devoting resources to students who were pursuing careers outside of corporate law and outside of working at private law firms. So when I went to law school in 1991, I was one of a number of students who said we want to use our law degrees to help other people and to work with the disadvantaged and stick it to the man or whatever we were saying. But by the time I graduated, there were very few of us left who were actually doing it. And that's a phenomenon that's not uncommon in law schools across the country. Lots of you probably on your applications, I'm guessing, have said, I want to use my law degree to do this, to help these people, to serve this cause or further this mission. Am I right? Hands up, anybody? And hopefully all of you will be walking across the stage on graduation day 3.5 years from now or 3 years from now with that a reality and not just an aspiration. But back when I was in law school, that wasn't the case. Lots of people said they wanted to do it, but because law schools didn't dedicate resources to helping people find jobs, or they didn't dedicate resources to loan repayment programs, or they didn't have the kinds of curricular offerings that were necessary to give students the skills and the ability to really hit the ground running when they graduated, not many people were left who actually went on and did the work. So I'm jealous in that way, and I'm jealous also because there was so much I had to learn and figure out as I went along, which is still going to be the case, that now is being taught, and specifically is being taught here. And so I feel like the students who we are graduating now are more equipped than ever to go out and start making a difference from day one of their professional career, and even make a difference while they're law students. And so I'm going to talk specifically about the Law and Public Service program, but it is one piece of kind of a larger structure here that will make it much easier for all of you to pursue the careers that you want to pursue, to fight for the causes you want to fight for, to work with the populations you are going to law school to serve. So, a couple of things. Number one, the law school does a great job providing skills to people who want to do this kind of work. There's a huge array of clinical offerings, both in the criminal side, the civil side, doing trial work, doing appellate work. You can kind of pick an issue or pick a population you want to serve, and I can't guarantee that they'll have a clinic to match it, but I can pretty much guarantee that we'll be able to come close. So you will be graduating, if you've done clinical work here, having had real clients, and hopefully having been in court, and having to participate in litigation. And so your prospective employers will feel like, okay, this person is going to be an asset to us from the moment he or she walks in the door. One of the things when I was in law school that was hard for those of us who wanted to do public service work is the law school didn't provide a lot of support and a lot of connections to what you might consider our alternative career paths, our non-firm career paths. And so I had to figure out a job on my own. Here we have the Public Service Career Center, which you may be familiar with, which has a number of people in it. It brings employers to campus. It helps you find jobs in the career you want to do. They prepare you for interviews. They work on your materials with you. They help you find fellowships that you might want to pursue. There's an incredible amount of support here. And I think students are taking more and more advantage of it to help you find a job. So you're getting the skills here through the clinic work and other course offerings. You are getting connected with employers in the field you want to pursue. And then, I'm sure some of you are thinking about this already, there is support here at the law school to handle the fact that you will be making substantially less than many of your peers if this is the work you choose to pursue, and help you, and there's support here to help you pay back your student loans if you're going to be graduating with those loans. And there's a pretty generous loan repayment program. I'm not going to walk through the specifics of it, but it's pretty generous, it's pretty helpful. It was recently sort of improved and strengthened. When you talk to the financial aid people, they can probably help you learn more about that, and there's a lot of information on the law school website about that. So hopefully by the time you are done here, you will have had a variety of experiences. You will have increased your skill level to do the kind of work that you're passionate about, which is key. You will have some support connecting with employers, and you will have the ability to afford it once you graduate and pay back your loans. So that's the law school generally. Specifically, what I'm talking about is the Law and Public Service Program, which is a fairly new creation here at the law school. It's only 2 years old. And it was created with the goal of taking what we already have and focusing it and concentrating it on a select group of students, which doesn't mean these are the only students who are going to do public interest work, but on a select group of students who seem particularly committed and dedicated to doing this work. So this year's third years, I think we're the first class of students who were admitted into the program. We just admitted the newest class of 1Ls into the program. And this is how it works. And I'll talk for a few minutes, and then we'll have time to do a little question and answer session if you're so interested. Every year, 20 first-year students and 5 second-year students who may have not made it the year before are admitted into the program. And there's an application process, and there's a faculty review committee, and the application process basically is looking at your achievement prior coming to law school, your experience, if any, in doing public service work prior to coming to law school, and the sort of degree to which you're focused on doing it after law school. If you are admitted into the program, there will be 3 academic requirements in addition to everything else that you're required to do to graduate from law school. There is a first year sort of survey class that isn't limited exclusively to students in the program that looks at questions such as what is a public service lawyer, and what kind of work do public service lawyers do, and what are the different ways that lawyers do this work. But it's sort of looking at it from a macro level and looking at it theory and reading lots of the great cases and talking about sort of the strategies that lawyers have used over the years to use the law to promote a cause or to protect a population. In your second year or your third year, having done that class, there's a class which I teach on public interest advocacy skills. And the class is really designed to look at those things and help expose students to those things that lawyers do outside of court to help make change. So increasingly, although not always, lawyers find themselves working with the media, or working with legislators, or working with a local city council, or working with community groups, or doing all kinds of things that you don't get training for in law school to help change the status quo, to help protect a group, to change a law, to make a law, to defeat a bad law. And so this class helps you learn more about those kinds of skills. And so students learn about media advocacy, and they learn about working with community groups, and We're bringing in a couple of days, I think next week, we're bringing in 2 reporters, and students are going to be doing videotaped mock interviews with reporters on a project that they've identified. And students in the class, as part of their final assignment, have to design an advocacy campaign. And it's looking like a lot of the 2Ls in the class who've designed campaigns may end up, for credit, working on those campaigns their 3rd year here, which would be exactly what we want to happen. It's not what has to happen. But so it's an opportunity to think differently, to acquire new skills, to learn things that frankly I didn't learn till I had screwed all those things up horribly as a lawyer, because no one ever taught me how to do them. So hopefully we will be keeping you from making many of the mistakes that folks like I made or I make still, because I never got the proper training to do it. The third piece of the curricular requirements is to write a fairly lengthy research paper your 3rd year under the supervision of a faculty member that will hopefully be on that issue you are interested in pursuing sort of as your career. It's an opportunity to think more about it, to learn more about it. We had a guest speaker in at the beginning of this semester, and there was no law and public service program when she was a law student here, but she wrote a paper her 3rd year that became the basis for a fellowship proposal she made and a nonprofit that she started. And so one of our goals is helping some of you who are thinking along the lines of being social entrepreneurs is develop the ability and develop the ideas to maybe start something new when you're finished with law school, or go work in an existing organization as well. But for those of you who are, say, you scan the field and you say, there's nothing out there that exactly matches with what I want to do. I want to do something else, giving you some tools and ability and time to think that through and go out and do your own thing. In addition to the academic requirements for those in the program, there are also supports built in. We meet monthly for lunch. We bring in guest speakers. Part of it's just to get to hang out and for all of you to get to know one another, those of you who end up in the program. We also assign students to faculty mentors. I shouldn't say we assign, we require that you identify a faculty member to serve as your mentor. And a number of us have volunteered to serve in that capacity. And so depending on what your interests are, my guess is there are probably professors here who can help support you, help you find jobs, help you think about what classes you want to take, how to structure your time and get the most bang for your buck while you're here so that you can really go out and hit the ground running when you're done. In addition to the classes and the mentors, there's also guaranteed summer funding for students who do public service work between their 1st and 2nd years and then their 2nd and 3rd years. Many of the people you may want to work for, while offering great experiences and great opportunities, will not be able to offer you any money when you work for them over the summer. And so the Public Interest Law Association, which is a student-run group here, raises funds and makes grants to students who are going to do summer work, and a certain number of those grants are explicitly set aside for students in this program. So that's a guarantee. I think that is most of what is currently offered in the program. A couple of caveats about it. Just because you are not in the program if you decide to come here, if you don't get in or you decide not to apply, doesn't mean that you can't or won't do public service work. Like I said, there are a huge array of clinical offerings. There's a huge array of other course offerings. There's one of the things I forgot to mention is there's a very structured and organized pro bono program. And so students who aren't doing clinics but want to do some real work outside of class, have the opportunity to get matched up with public interest organizations, legal aid organizations, public defender offices, other places, so you can go get that real experience you want to get, which is sometimes a nice solve to sitting in class all day and learning about things that you may or may not be incredibly interested in. I found when I was in law school that doing clinical work, I got a job working at a civil rights firm in Chicago my third year. That made it all more real for me, and it made it clear why I needed to master all the stuff that I was in class trying to master. You may be sitting there saying, well, what does this matter? Well, I want to be a public defender, or I want to be a US attorney. Why do I have to learn about corporations, or why do I have to learn about some area that seems disconnected? But once you're out there and you in the field and you see what lawyers do and you see the kind of analysis they have to apply and the skills they have to bring to their work, you begin to make those connections. And so, in addition to clinical work, there's lots of great pro bono offerings. The Public Service Careers Office is not open only to students in the Law and Public Service program. It's open to all students. So it's not a big deal if you're not in the program. It's just that the program does provide some unique opportunities. I should also say summer funding is still available to students who aren't in the program. It's just not guaranteed.